In this video, I'll show you the exact three-stage system I use to build my personal brand that makes me around 10K a month these days, almost passively, and how you can use it to build your own personal brand. Now, I had two Instagram channels. One had 100,000 followers and the other, smaller one, had 30,000 followers. And the smaller one, surprisingly, made me 9 times more money. So in 2026, a bigger audience does not mean more money. Something else is way more important, and that's trust. So I had two German teaching channels running at the same time. One taught German through English, and it hit over 100,000 followers. That was around 3 years ago, by the way. The other one taught German to Turkish speakers, so it was way more niche. And that one sat at around 30,000 followers. The big channel had 3 times the audience size, but the smaller one still pulled 3 times more registrations for my live classes, so 9 times more effective per follower. So the difference wasn't the value I gave, my educational reels and posts. Both channels taught German. I even shared the exact same educational content for the most part. So once I spoke English, and then I spoke Turkish in the version for the other smaller channel. But the content was the same basically. But here is the major difference. On the Turkish channel, I wasn't just teaching German, I was also sharing my life. The fact that I live in Turkey, the fact that I have a Turkish fiance, and the fact that I was learning Turkish myself. Now, I didn't do this entirely intentionally at first, to be honest. It came natural. So it wasn't even part of a marketing plan. But over time, I noticed that people didn't just watch my content, they resonated with me on a way deeper and more personal level. So they saw themselves in my story. They were learning a foreign language, German, and I was also learning a foreign language. I was learning their language, Turkish. So they trusted that if I could do it, they could do it too. And the English channel accidentally slowly died. Views dropped month after month until I stopped posting entirely at some point. The Turkish channel is still alive and flourishing. Nowadays it has around 130,000 followers. It makes millions of views each month and it gives me around 10K of personal profit and allowed me to live my dream life in this gorgeous place. And most importantly, I only work around 1 hour a day on that teaching business. So in 2026, trust is the big bottleneck. People have been burned buying things online. They have been disappointed. And mind you, in my language education business, I sell low-ticket offers that range from $100 to around $200. And even for such cheap products, the trust factor is huge. It makes a huge difference. So if you're selling high-ticket offers, coaching, consulting, or similar services, it's even way more important. And trust does not just come from expertise alone anymore. That's the main thing to understand here. You can give all the value in the world. You can teach your frameworks, show your strategies and systems. But if people don't know who you are, they will not buy from you. A personal brand is the best way how to build trust online in 2026. It's how you let people into your world, so to speak. It's how you show them the life that they want, and you can prove them that you can help them get there as well. So you're not just selling a product, you're not selling an offer, you're selling a transformation. You're selling the version of them that achieves what you have achieved. And the way you do that is by combining these 3 things: expertise, your personality, and your why. Your expertise is what gives you authority. It's the value you deliver, the transformation you create, the results you can prove. Without this, people might find you interesting or inspiring, but they will not see you as the expert in your field. So that's kind of obvious, I guess. So let's now move on to the other 2 less obvious factors. Your personality is what makes you relatable. The way you talk, the way you show up, the way you connect. Without this, your brand is lifeless. People cannot see themselves in you. And your why, thirdly, is what makes people believe in you. It's the reason you do what you do, the story behind the offer. It's the mission that drives you, so to speak. Without this, your brand has no depth. And when you combine all three of these things, you create something that cannot be copied, because no one else has your exact story, your exact personality, and your exact reason for doing this. And this is what separates a personal brand from a regular content creator. And that's the biggest lever that you can pull for your business in 2026. So let's now talk about all three funnel stages and what to do at each of these stages. The goal at the top of funnel is simple. Get as many eyeballs as possible. Here you're not selling. Here you're not positioning yourself as the authority yet. Here you're just making people stop scrolling. That's the main goal at this stage. And the content here is less about you, it's more about them, your viewers, your audience. So it's about quick wins, relatable moments, things they can use immediately, or things that they can get motivation or inspiration from. So to give examples here, on my Instagram channel, the top of funnel content comes in two forms mainly. Around 20% is funny and 80% is useful. Ideally both at the same time within one video, within one Instagram reel, for example. As an example for funny content, I would compare German and Turkish. So German, the language that my followers learn, and Turkish, their native language. I would compare these two languages in a way that makes people laugh. So in Turkish, words can get extremely long because the grammar system is completely different. So I made a reel, for example, showing a sentence with like around 20 words in German, and it was one massive, never-ending word in Turkish. It went viral and it almost got 1 million views. So that reel didn't teach anything deep. It didn't position me as an expert, but it made people laugh. It got them interested in my channel, and it got me lots of new followers. And that's all you want to do at the top of the funnel. The useful content is just as simple. For example, we post a format once a week, and that's called the word of the week. So it's about one word, one German word, and 3 example sentences using that word. An easy one, an intermediate one, and a very difficult advanced one. So that's broad content anyone can watch and anyone can learn something from it. It gives instant value to people. And platforms for this stage are first and foremost Instagram, and maybe also TikTok and LinkedIn, depending on where your audience lives. So short form is definitely the best way to reach cold traffic in 2026. That sort of top funnel content is not about you, it's about getting attention. It's about making someone who has never heard of you stop and watch and become interested in you. Now let's move on to the middle of funnel content. Now this is where trust gets built first and foremost. People have discovered you at the top with your broad content, and now they're asking, who is this person? Can they actually help me? And this is where you show up, not just as the expert, also as a person, as a human being. The content here is also about you, about your story, your background, your life, and proof that you have done what you're teaching. On my Turkish channel, this is where I leaned into the personal brand thing fully. So around 3 years ago, I started doing Instagram Q&As regularly, and more than half of the questions were entirely personal. So they weren't about vocab and grammar and about, techniques to learn German. They were about me. Where do you live? How did you learn Turkish? Why did you move to Turkey? What's it like to have a Turkish fiance? And so on. So that told me something important. People were not just following me for tips. They were also following because of me, because they were interested in me and my story. And this was long before I actually understood all of these principles and long before I put it into frameworks. But I was definitely beginning to understand the power of adding yourself, of adding personal information to your content and to your social media presence. So, for example, I made a reel about my girlfriend, nowadays fiance, by the way. So typical things about Turkish girls, and I compared these typical things to German girls. So it wasn't educational at all. Maybe it was like 10% because I was speaking German and there were German and Turkish subtitles. So it was slightly educational, but it was at least 90% funny and personal, I guess. and people loved it. This also reached more than 1 million views, and I got a ton of new followers from it. Another example, I also made a YouTube video about my morning routine. So I didn't just show my morning, of course. I also used it to teach German. I taught some new German phrases, German sentences. I put subtitles there. So it was useful content for German learners, but it was also about me and about my life and about my morning routine. And that's the mix that you need here. Some content is purely personal, the Q&As, for example, for the most part, in my case, or the girlfriend reel or the lifestyle moments. Other content is more educational with personal things sprinkled in, like the morning routine video. The educational posts at this stage are deeper and more educational than the top of funnel content. And this content also includes YouTube videos instead of just reels, and it also includes newsletters instead of just carousel posts. So the content pieces get a bit longer. In these content pieces, I would also talk about how I used to work for universities teaching German. I would show clips of me speaking Turkish, showing my progress along the way, and I would also share behind the scenes of living in Turkey, the culture, the language, the daily life, going to the farmer's market, going to a restaurant, ordering in Turkish, and so on. So this is where trust and relatability get built. Not by claiming you're the expert, but by showing the life that proves it. So if you're a fitness coach, for example, you show them how you train. You share your story about how you maybe were out of shape in the past. Or if you're a business coach, you share your stories about how you started your business, what your life looked like before you had your business, and what you're currently doing for your business, what you're currently building. So why are we doing all of this? Well, because when people feel like they know you, trust is already there. And that is what makes the bottom of funnel way, way easier. And that's the funnel stage we'll get to now, the bottom of funnel. So the bottom of funnel is where the sale happens. By this point, people have discovered you, they've watched your content, and they believe that you can actually help them. And now they need to decide. Am I ready to pay to achieve the transformation faster? This is where two types of content come in. Pure promotions and deep dive value. The pure promotions are exactly what they sound like. Emails, Instagram stories, reels, direct calls to action basically. Like we're launching this course. I'm launching this offer, this coaching program. Here's the link. Click it. You'll find out more and you can register. This works because trust is already there. You're not cold pitching here. You're offering the next logical step to someone who already knows and trusts you. On my channel, the bottom of funnel content mainly lives on YouTube and in newsletters and in Instagram stories. So we have grammar deep dives, mini courses. These are the deep dive videos and they're usually 20, 30, sometimes even 40 minutes long. So one format that we do regularly for the deep dive content is the 50 most important verbs or the 50 most important adjectives for this or that language level. So each word gets educational info, like I show an example sentence and I show some grammar info and some pronunciation tips on that word. These videos are very long. They require commitment to watch. I mean, those people who watch these videos, they're already serious prospects, they're hot leads, and these people are far more likely to pay you, to buy your services. Makes sense, right? Someone who watches a 40-minute deep dive grammar video on German is, of course, way more likely to buy than someone who just watched a very short reel of yours. Because these people are very serious about their transformation and they experienced me as the teacher and they hopefully liked me and my teaching style. So they didn't just see a quick tip. They sat through a very long lesson. They heard my methodology, my way of explaining things, and they decided whether they liked learning from me in this way or not. And that's what the bottom of funnel deep dive content does. It removes the last bit of doubt. It separates those people who want to become your customers from those who don't, which is totally fine. Not everyone will buy from you, obviously. So it's not about convincing them that you're good. It's about letting them experience what's it like to learn from you and to work with you before they actually pay you. The key at this stage is to not be afraid to sell. You have built the trust, you've given lots of value, you've shown up, you have earned the right to now promote your services. The offer is the next natural step. And because the personal brand has done its job in the previous funnel stages, they feel like they already know you, they trust you, they like you, and all of this makes the sale way, way easier. So the funnel I just described is not a 3-day process at all. For some people, it might happen fairly fast. They find you, they binge your content, and they buy within a few days. But for most people, it takes weeks, sometimes months, and sometimes even years, especially for a high-ticket offer that requires a higher commitment. So I call this the trust funnel. And I have a separate deep dive video on this exact system if you want to go deeper after watching this video right here. But the idea behind the whole funnel system is simple. You're building trust at every stage. Someone discovers you through a funny reel or a quick win post, something like that. That's the top of the funnel. They follow you because the content was useful or entertaining or inspiring. Then they start seeing your stories, your Q&As, your YouTube videos. That's the middle of funnel. They learn who you are. They see your life and also your past life. They start understanding that you can help them and they start connecting with you. Then they watch a long-form video, read your newsletter. That's the bottom of funnel. They experience what it's like to learn from you and to learn with you. They see your methodology and then they decide whether they are ready to buy. The personal brand is sort of the thread that connects all 3 stages. At the top, you get discovered by new people. It makes you relatable. At the middle, you make a much deeper connection. It makes you even way more relatable. And then at the bottom of funnel, you actually establish yourself as the expert in your field. The system works great for my low-ticket German teaching business, but it's 100 times more important to use something like this if you're in the high-ticket business. So when someone is paying you 1K or 3, 5, or even 10K for coaching or consulting, they're not just buying a service, they're betting on you. They're buying access to you and your experience. They need to trust that you have done what you're promising to help them do. They need to believe in your story. They need to feel like they really, really know you. And that's what a personal brand can give you. It's the asset that makes high-ticket selling possible without ads, without cold outreach, and without sales calls. People come to you already sold, or at least partly pre-sold, so to speak. And that's because they've been moving through your funnel for weeks or months. They've watched your content, they've heard your story, they've experienced your teaching, and they really understand who you are and what it is that you do and how you do things. And then the sale is not a cheap pitch. It's the natural next step. You're not chasing customers. They actually chase you. That's the power of building and monetizing a personal brand in 2026. If you want to go deeper on all of that, make sure to follow this channel now and make sure you watch the full breakdown video linked below next.